Thank you, Peter. It's 7:07 p.m. on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. Welcome to the Lower Southampton Township Board of Supervisors workshop. This is a budget workshop and a workshop meeting. We're a little late. We apologize for that. We'll get underway right now. I'll turn it over to our Township Manager, Joe Galdo, to lead us through tonight's budgeting explanations and requests. Joe?
Thank you, sir. Tonight we have the library and the library capital reserve, as well as the sewer and sewer capital reserve. Tonight we'll start with Dennis, the director from the library. And Dennis, if you could kind of lead us through what you're proposing for 2021. Typical, the township and the board, the library board typically have some differences or nuances in certain line items, and this will probably be the same for this year. So Dennis, do you want to start?
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm here with Gary Bowman, the library board president, Catherine Hahn, a library board member, and Carissa Murray, the library's bookkeeper and administrative assistant. And I trust all the supervisors got a copy of the budget that we're talking about today. And I apologize for it being pretty late. But just to go on, the board, their goal was to create a budget with reasonable cuts without diminishing the value of the library and what the community values most, which has been the staff, the programs, and our materials. So basically, we used the 2020 budget for the basis of this year's budget, that was considered in 2020 a bare bones budget, and it comes in, and the budget we're proposing today comes in less than that was. So if we want to just start looking at the revenues, and basically the big cut came from the state, which is projected to be 50% cut. They won't know for sure because they don't vote on it till November, but that was what we were told it would probably be. And when we talk about our revenues, everything was, of course, disrupted by the COVID-19. So just recently, we've been able to collect fines again, so we'll be doing that in the new year. This year, we're going to be sharing the fines that are paid online, because previously that was only going to the Bucks County Library, because that's where you would pay your fines online. But now they're working out a way to share that with us. And actually, when we get a credit card or a bank account, it can go directly into that from our patrons paying through the library website. They could go right into our bank account. Well, that's still coming up. Our book sale recently reopened, and for the rest of this year and going into 2021, we raised the prices for the first time since 2015. People have not been complaining. Actually, they were looking forward to coming back to buying books from us. The fundraising letter appeal will go out again this year, and it'll go out again in 2021. We want to start accepting credit cards because it's going to be easier to collect fines. We have a lot of people who don't carry cash. They tell us this. They don't carry checks either. And if we have a credit card ability, we can create a donation page on the website. We can create another way to donate to the library appeal if it goes out on the letter. We are also going to be looking into virtual fundraising. That's now that people can't gather together. And what that means, what it comes down to, is that you have events and you have people who are joining. So things I have seen were musical events or plays that you would pay for a ticket online. And sometimes they've had concerts, so it would be basically finding a event to coordinate with a fundraising. But that's something we have to just start looking at. And again, the room rentals, which was a big part of our revenues, we don't know when that will resume because right now our space is taken up for quarantining the library materials. So that's about it for any changes in the revenues. Want to go on to expenses? Changes. Okay. So in 2021, the biggest change is always going to be salaries and the benefits that are connected to that. And so in 2020, we already eliminated one of our part-time positions. And in 2021, we will eliminate 2 other part-time positions. In 2021, we will be reducing the staff in general by 59.5 hours a week. And that was accomplished because we're going to change the hours we're open. And so that took a little, shaved people's workload, work hours each week. It cut it down, and it also cut out some people that were covering desks and stuff like that. And I want to say that we're very much in keeping our 4 full-time staff members. That's always been a question, but I want everyone to know that they have been the force behind what we became this summer during COVID, and we had to become a virtual library pretty much overnight. And it was because we had these people that we could do it. And they have made so much progress for this library and for this community in the past 5 years that I can't imagine that we can afford to give them up. Going on, another change is the computers that we have. We're reducing those by 2 public computers because patrons are generally using the Wi-Fi or their own devices, where they just don't need them as much. Right now, we are only having 4 computers available to keep the social distancing in, and we'll reduce it, and we limit them to 1 hour. That is to keep them so nobody's hanging out. They're not congregating in the building, which of course is a safety measure. We reduced our subscriptions, that's the newspapers and the periodicals, and we got rid of expensive, underused ones. And we got rid of a lot of things that can be now found online. And during COVID, we find more and more people are utilizing the e-resources, and we're helping people to utilize the resources. The other big change was commercial insurance. We met with a broker the other day who specializes in insurance for nonprofits, and they gave us an estimate that if we went on our own, it would be between $10,000 and $12,000 for the library. And the other big change is the computer operating costs. Since we separated from paying the county for their connection, we've gone down, we've at least halved it, gone down 50%. In 2020, we had the year with the county and half the year on our own. And in 2021, we will have the whole year on our own. That's all the big changes going on.
Dennis, can you go over the fact that you didn't have a finalized budget as of last night, as far as you gave me a partial budget, but I didn't have a finalized budget. So what the board has in front of them is basically more in line with what the township has, but not in line with what you currently have. So I think you need to circle back on your side as far as what you're addressing as far as the transfer from the general fund, and that's a main thing, and as well as your salaries that you need to kind of hit.
The board, I sent out to the supervisors this afternoon the the budget that I'm talking about.
Well, I was not part of that, nor did I receive it.
I sent it out later to you, Joe. Am I talking to Joe?
Yep, I still don't have it.
No. Did the
Den-
board-
Den-
Is that the one at 150, 132 we got?
right?
Okay.
And Dennis, the board talked about this twice, I think, yesterday. The budget that you finally
Oh, this is
finalized, right?
So let's talk about what do you have currently in your line item for the transfer from the general fund?
The transfer from the general fund, the board said 640.
So you're saying your board approved for 640. I kind of gave you a number of 448, and you still have 640 listed on there.
Right, because you gave us a 30% cut in our budget in their transfer, and
I don't know how, I mean, this is a board's decision. I don't know how am I supposed to fund at the 640 level when we have other increases in CBA dues between the police, the Teamsters, which is a couple $100,000 increase for next year, as well as the pension allocation, which we'll talk about tonight, which is another $130,000 more into the pension, and so forth. So as far as cuts, there will have to be cuts. I gave them a number that I feel that they could operate with, as well as serve the community. The pie could only take me so far as coming out of the general fund, let's say. And this is not a year that we're going to have a real estate tax increases, because you got over 4,000 residents at a point in time that are unemployed. So I don't know how I could fund you at 640 at the current level.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The board last night, we dealt with that issue, and we understand the reduction that you were looking for. And the only way we're going to achieve that is reduce library services to the community by not having the library open the number of hours or days that we have right now. And the community service that some of those people rely on heavily to search for jobs, get new employment, and keep abreast of what's going on. And we really, the board gave direction, let's stay with the 640 and see how we can work that out.
Joe, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
With the 448,000 that you slotted in there compared to the 640,000 that was also mentioned, the 448,000 would leave a gap at the end of the year of $91,000, right? That would have to be taken out of the library's reserve.
Yes, if they continue with their expending practices and monitor their library salary as we close this year, and more in line at staying at 343,000, which they could project to, they would end this given year with a positive fund balance of 157,000. That $157,000 offsets what they're being decreased in the 2021 budget. So if they stay within their parameters of their payroll, then they potentially could still end up with a positive fund balance for the 2021 fiscal cycle. So the main thing, I don't think it's a matter of shortened hours at the library. I think that might be the wrong thing to do. I think it may be a manpower issue, meaning having a lower amount of staff there at periods of times. During the daytime, there's plenty of times where you may have a multitude of staff and hardly anybody in the library. There also may be times where they have a full complement of staff and the place is packed. It's basically matching up your times with your, knowing if Friday's a busy day, you have a larger amount of staff on Fridays. I think it would be going in the wrong direction if we start cutting hours from the library. I think you're at, just like as everybody else is, all the other libraries as far as hours are served. I think it's more of a managing of staff type situation. You do have 18, 19 employees. You have 6 circulation clerks that encompass about 180 hours over a 2-week period. There's other ways to handle this. You just got to kind of right size it.
I have some questions. The part-timer that you eliminated, was that one of the part-timers that retired?
No.
Okay. And how did you do with the layoffs? I know the township paid their employees full wages for 2 weeks. How did the library handle that? Did you pay your employees full wages? Like on the administration, on the operational side, how did you handle your employees in the beginning of COVID?
Right. That was where all the libraries didn't know what was going on, what was going to happen. So we didn't realize how much impact it would have. So everybody was a little slow in that. I'll give you an example. We kept delaying, like we canceled programs for a week. Then all of a sudden we had to cancel them for 2 weeks. And all of a sudden we canceled them for a month. And then all of a sudden we had a stay-at-home order. So I'll say that, in hindsight, we could have furloughed them earlier, but we didn't until May. That was a board decision. And then from there, they were off. They were the only 5 people were being paid because they could work remotely. And as we brought people back, little by little, back in June, we started bringing people back. That when the building had to be reopened, when we started curbside, and as we increased the hours and as we increased the services, we brought people back. We still haven't opened all the hours we were in January. We still don't have the staff we have back in January. So I'll say something right now is that budget number, the salary line, that 345, that's really inaccurate because that's counting all the people, all the times that no one was in the building, that all those people were furloughed, that all the people that weren't working their regular hours. So that's very low to take a percentage of that money. It's more like the 292 number, more like a 26% cut, not a 15% cut. And so that makes it almost impossible to have the library.
So what I understand that you said, to answer my question, you paid your employees until May. Was that 7 weeks full pay?
1, 2,
About 6, 7 weeks full
Yep.
pay?
Yes, it was.
And how many employees was that at the time?
Carissa, we had 5.
We had 12 employees furloughed during that time.
Were they working from home?
12 employees were furloughed. 5 employees were still getting paid their full wages working remotely from home.
This was up until the beginning of May or after that?
This was after May.
Okay, so up during the time from when this hit, somewhere around March 12th, March 13th, up until the end of April, and you paid all the employees that you paid, do you know how many were being paid for those 6 weeks or 7 weeks? I think that's what Ms. Kaplan was asking.
Yeah.
From that March 14th to we furloughed employees starting on May 4th. During that time frame, we paid everyone their full wages. And then on May 4th, that's when we furloughed 12 employees and we still had 5 employed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carissa.
You're welcome.
So if we want to talk more about the salaries, so for the 4 full-time employees, who again are doing the brunt of the work, and keeping your library active and current and up to date, their salaries alone are 200,000. So that would leave me 90,000 to fund everything else.
And I hate to go back on, I hate to beat a dead horse, Dennis. I was just going over in my head that those 7 weeks represent about 1/8 of the total salaries paid to the library staff for the year, right?
No,
About
it actually
12.5%.
out to less $18,990.20 that we paid the people who weren't working.
Can you say it again?
It's 14,000 on average. They were averaging 14,000 a pay. So if it's for 7 weeks, it's 3.5 times 14, let's say $14,500.
But Joe, are you counting the people who are doing work remotely?
I'm counting everybody. Your average pay is about 14.5, let's say.
But if you're asking about how much was paid for the people who weren't working, but still on the payroll, it was $18,989. And then they were furloughed.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so all your employees for 7 weeks came to $18,000?
No.
I'm
thinking you're concerned with the people who weren't working remotely.
What was the number then?
Carissa, can you divide that?
Divide
The number, the 5 people who were working for 7 weeks, and then you already have the number, the 12 people that were working for 7 weeks that were being paid but staying home.
So Dennis, if I get you right, then what you're saying, I think what you're saying, so the 5 of us understand, is that from March 14th until May 4th, no one was working at the library. The employees received, hold on, let me finish. That the employees received full salary. Now, some of them were working remotely from home, and then some of them were not.
Correct.
Up until May 4th.
Correct.
Okay.
Were they under full paid?
Correct.
So how many weeks is that? And how much per week?
Carissa, you want to answer?
if you just focus on the 12 employees who are getting paid to stay at home and do nothing, about every 2 weeks it was about like $5,400. So every week was about $2,000 something dollars. If you want to look at it as a whole, including the people who stayed home and didn't do anything, and include the people who were working remotely from home, that would be about, in total, $7,000 roughly. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Joe, what are you looking for tonight?
I mean, ultimately, we got to have a budget to push on for 2021. The question is, if you keep the current allocation the way it is, the way they're proposing, you're probably going to lose additional staff in your administration. So I can only cut the pie, and I mean the general fund pie, a certain amount of times. So unfortunately, you know, the township has already laid off 4 individuals in as far as clerical, and we have laid off numerous public works employees to try to make this work. So, you know, all I can say is I can only cut the pie a certain amount of times, and then the pie's gone.
Catherine, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, forgot that. It's hard to quantify the money compared to like a public work person or something, all important. But when we're looking at the library budget and we talked amongst each other, what can we afford to cut when we have people out of work who need the resources that a library offers? And there are a number of them. I'm in the school every single day, and I can tell you that right now, it's so up in the air, it's crazy. And I deal with second grade, and I have second graders who tested on a science or a spelling test the other day at about a first grade level. Some of them even worse than that. The kids have been out of school, their parents need resources. I've been sending them to the library because the parents can't come into the school library. So the library is offering services and something for our community that they're the oxygen right now. So when you compare it to something else, it's not apples to apples. The library offers such important tools, resources, assistance. Even I know that you think that the computers don't matter, but even in terms of internet access, the bandwidth at people's homes with 3 and 4 children on Zoom all day long, it's terrible. The Zoom's just not made for that on a home bandwidth. So some people are going to the library to borrow their internet. When you look at budget cuts, you need to consider the fact that the library is offering services and resources to people that wouldn't have any other choice, except to maybe go sit in Burger King and use theirs, but Burger King won't let people sit down in their restaurant. So I'd be kind of careful about what is deemed a budget cut. If you just take a 30% cut, that's a very broad cut. And it's not taking into consideration the unknown that we're dealing with right now. We're also dealing with a situation of a limited staff where, say somebody tests for COVID and then they have to be contact traced, and we realize that we have 4 employees that are now on a 2-week hiatus due to COVID. We don't have the resources to then hire a sub, because I can tell you from the school district, we don't have subs. We can't even get subs.
Well, if I could ask a question, I mean, Northampton Library right now, Northampton Township, their library is totally closed down, not even operational. I do think that what our library is doing is providing a service to the residents where other townships are not. So I do see that as a plus. I do see that as a positive. The thing I would say is that, you know, if I don't understand if you need a full complement of staff currently, if let's say if people are coming and they're not really staying in the building, they're kind of there's some different nuances. Let's say, yeah, you're coming in, you may go in and select a book or so, but you're receiving the book outside, from what I understand. I don't know if the full complement of staff, and from what I'm understanding, is it's almost the full complement has been brought back, while the township has been working with limited staffs.
They did reduce the hours. You saw that, right? And they're looking at even cutting time that the library is open. And now that you're saying Northampton is even open, it tells me that we're probably going to get people from Northampton.
You may get people from Northampton, absolutely. But all I'm saying is that we kind of right size it and find the right numbers as far as the number of people staffing as well as the number of hours. I would rather not see a limited or a reduction number of hours at the facilities, but that's just me.
And it's the same across the board for us, Dennis and Catherine. I mean, we have the police chief sitting here, and he's been on his hands and knees for the past 4 months trying to get back a staff member that's vital to the day-to-day operation of his office. And Mark McDonald's on here from Public Works, and he has 5 guys cutting the grass that usually 10 guys do, and climbing down into the sewers and things like that. So we're trying to make the best of the situation with the minimum amount of impact manpower wise, but it's hit us across the board.
And if,
Which,
and if state funding is going to be 50%, I mean, we're not asking for 50% as far as an allocation of in dealing with that transfer coming from the general fund. It's more than that. And, you know, I'm sure we can kind of move the numbers a little bit higher if we need to, but I don't see how I could make it work at 640 as in the past year.
I guess my personal concern is the fact that if this continues much longer, we're going to have a bunch of 18-year-olds graduating from Neshaminy with an 8th grade education. And right now, just basic reading, because I teach the little guys, they're hurting. You can't send them things like a high schooler because they can't read yet. You can't expect them to do things at a level like a middle schooler or a high schooler because they can't even read their own directions. So I, as a teacher, need resources that are available in the community that I can send parents to. And that library is in the middle of a bunch of schools that need those resources. And I'm so concerned, I guess, for our community. It's not even just for the library budget, but it's for our community, that parents are not going to have those resources. We also have a lot of non-English speaking people in our school. Their parents, they're at a loss already. So they need to be able to go to a resource with someone who does speak English and can get a book for their son or daughter and say, this is on their grade level, or to put a list together that I could put together with the library to say, go in, it's set aside for my class. These are books that are on the level your child needs. I just am so concerned about budget cuts in this unprecedented time and how it's going to affect our community.
Well, we can continue to review it, and maybe we could work something out as far as an accommodation, but I don't know how I could do 640 again and take care of all the other departmental issues or departments. I mean, so tonight it's already 7:39, so we're gonna have to move on to the other budgets that are here tonight, which is the library capital reserve real quickly. And then the sewer capital reserve that I need to do.
Okay, before you go on, right here,
Yeah.
what do you want from us now?
Hey,
Well, I
Dennis,
mean, still look at the insurance, whether it's the healthcare insurance, if you want to look at that and see if you can get cheaper rates than what we have, that's fine. As far as the other insurance, the commercial, you can look at that. You know, we're negotiating as far as the utilities, so you should have a slight decrease in your utility costs. So we are doing more things for you as far as even, you know, Ray going in there into the library, and if he needs to do any services for you, we've been trying to do it in-house for you. But, you know, we're all in the same predicament, and, you know, I can only make it work a certain way. But again, just as I said to the chief, as far as sharing in the pain, we all are sharing in the pain. And I think every department has to step up and kind of and do that. And it's unfortunate, but this is what we have.
hey, Joe, this
Yes,
is
sir.
Gary
Yes,
Bowman.
doctor.
Yeah, what I like to do with Dennis and Carissa is sit down and internally rework the library budget to a number that represents reduction as much as we can do without significantly harming the services, and present that instead of just a big percentage decrease that we have to deal with. I think it can be done. We have to just take time and do it very carefully, and with the goal in mind that we can't support the library budget of with a 719,000. We need to come with something less. And I think we can do that. We just need time to do it and rework it.
That's fine.
And
It's a great idea.
Thank you, Dr. Bowman.
I'd be happy to work
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
and everybody to achieve that.
Okay.
I know the predicament you're in, and we on the library board want to provide the best library services we can, but we know it's not a blank check. So we need to tighten some things up. I think we can do it. Look at some of the big items, and we can get back to you.
Fair enough, sir.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. All right.
Okay?
Yes, thank you, sir. All right. All right, Dennis, did you want to go real quick through the library capital reserve?
Sure.
The only expense we technically have coming is dealing with your air conditioning system right now. And that should be around in between the low 14s to $15,000 in dealing with that air conditioning issue. And then for next year, we have the 10,000 allocation going into your capital reserve like we always do. And what I did is set aside appropriations just in case if something did come up for $20,000 worth of expenses, just in case. So you would probably end the 2021 budget cycle in capital reserve approximately around $47,512 to the good. So I just wanted to make that quick comment on that. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Carissa. And thank you, Dr. Bowen.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Hahn.
Thanks, guys.
The next one up would be the sewer and the sewer capital reserve. The sewer fund, fortunately for this given year, is looking well, and we're projecting that we should only have a very small deficit of $32,000, and that's if we were to migrate $100,000 to the sewer capital reserve. If not, we would be to the good approximately around $68,000 that we're projecting for this given year. As far as for 2021, again, a lot of it has to do with Philadelphia Water, Bucks County Sewer and Water Authority, their rates. We're tied in another year with Philadelphia Water, so we're projecting that to be around $4.3 million in payments to Philadelphia. That is basically our largest cost and the thing that we need to worry about in future years. Do we have a contractual obligation coming up with them? We'll probably have to renew and go through a new contract with them. If with all these other municipalities losing or selling their sewer assets or their water assets, I'm concerned that at a point in time, Philadelphia may come knocking at our door and exponentially raise our sewer treatment rates. So, but right now for 2021, there is no increase in our sewer rates, and we will project a small, basically a small deficit in that given year. But for the most part, the sewer fund is viable and basically alive. As far as sewer capital, the same thing's going on here. We're doing very well over here. Right now, we have two purchases going on, or two issues going on with the two pump stations. Mark, can you talk about the two pump station work that you're doing currently?
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So our sanitary sewer pump lift stations, B and C, were built many years ago. They're somewhere around 50, 60 years old. And so they have antiquated emergency generators, the old Caterpillar diesel generators. Both of them have broken down. We can't get any parts for them anymore. So what we do, we have two portable rented emergency generators hooked up to both B and C station currently that we're paying a monthly fee for. Now, Penn Power Diesel is custom building two new emergency generators for each station. I expect them to be finished and installed hopefully within about 4 to 6 weeks. If we don't have these and we get power outages, DEP will nail us with heavy fines for sanitary sewer overflows. And we sure get our share of power outages, as you know. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, sir. So right now we have budgeted $71,000 sitting there for the 2020 estimate. And just in case if there was any other additional construction going on at the pump stations in general, we allocated 15,000. So for this given year, we're projecting a positive allocation of $15,323. For 2021, we're again putting in $4,000 for technology issues, dealing with the sewer, capital purchases, again, if needed basis. If we need to re-up on the various pumping stations that we have the appropriations there. Same thing as far as the construction and rebuilding line item. So as far as the sewer capital reserve, we're sitting pretty good with well over $1 million sitting there in case something does come up.
Joe, can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
Okay, on the payroll, for $238,000, give or take, for 2021, is anyone that pertains to the sewer payroll furloughed now? And is that payroll part of the furlough amount or anticipation of them coming back, or that has nothing to do with it?
For 2021, you're referring to, sir?
Yes.
Okay. For 2021, right now, that's basically staying kind of as is, but if needed, the main thing is that we stay in the, the cost centers that we have where we have appropriations. So let's say if I only have 228,000 set in there for next year, if we're at $270,000, as long as we have the appropriations in those various line items under that cost center, we're still to the good. So we do have some flexibility. I'm hoping COVID's not going to be always over here, and we have that resolution. But right now, this is basically portraying some people coming back, but also some people still being out possibly for next year. But we do have the flexibility. If the whole complement were to come back, we should be able to handle some of this. We're the majority of it.
Great. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Anybody else have any questions?
I just want to apologize. I had technical difficulties, so I left and had to come back again.
No problem. All right, so as far as that, the sewer capital is going over for the most part. The sewer, again, no rate increases. We will have to do a resolution with regard to this given year, with regard to one of the districts, with Toner Development coming on board near County Line Avenue. We want to marry up our rates to what Lower Moreland is charging us. So we would have a slight adjustment in that one rate for that one district. But that's only for that new area, being Toner Homes, those 16 townhomes. So we'll be adjusting that, and you'll be seeing a resolution coming forward. But other than that, that's it, and then we can proceed to our normal meeting.
Sounds great. We don't have to. We can just continue on with this stream we're in, right?
Yes, sir.
Is the board ready to go into the regular meeting now?
Not quite yet. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. What was the outcome of the end of the library? That's when I lost contact. Did we get a figure for the that we were waiting for?
No.
Did you drop off when Mr. Bowman was talking?
I know they were trying to find out the figure for the 7 weeks of the.
Yeah, she said that was about $2,700 a week for those employees that were not working. But at the end of that budget thing, Dr. Bowman offered to sit down with the library board and rework the budget and come back to us with an amended budget with whatever budget cuts they can do to make it more workable for us and them.
Okay, thank you. Because of that $91,000, that was an issue.
Yeah, and that transfer from the general fund and so forth. Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So are we ready to switch over?
Do we need a switch?
No, don't leave, Ed.
All right.
We may
It
never
was
see
my
you
turn
again.
to have problems.
Yeah. Joe, we're good to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome to the regular meeting of the Lower Southampton Township Board of Supervisors, being held via teleconference virtually for Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. The meeting was supposed to start at 7:30 p.m. The board apologizes. We went over in a previous workshop and also with the budgeting session. The meeting is about to begin and has been advertised as required as a virtual teleconference meeting. Before we start the meeting, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before tonight's meeting, the board held two separate workshops. The first workshop that we held was at 6 p.m. And that workshop was specifically to speak to the fire departments, Lower Southampton Fire Department, and also Feasterville Fire Department, along with the fire marshal and the board of supervisors. And specifically what we spoke for regards tonight's consent agenda item 1F, and that is the consideration of a resolution to apply to the Redevelopment Authority for a mini pumper vehicle. That meeting concluded at about 6:55 p.m., at which point we relogged back on and started our regular budget workshop work session. During the budget workshop and the work session, the board heard from the library board regarding the library budget and the capital reserve budget request for the Lower Southampton Library for the year 2021. And immediately afterward, the board heard of a request for the sewer budget and the capital reserve budget for 2021. That workshop meeting just concluded at about 7:50 p.m., at which time we began this meeting. First up on tonight's meeting is public comment. The public was invited, as in all previous virtual meetings, to submit any comment via email to the township administration, and I would ask Mr. Gaudo or whomever if there was any items to be read in a public comment.
No items for tonight.
Nothing, Joe?
Nothing, sir.
Thank you. Next up on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. It's rather long. I'll go over it. Consent agenda item 1A is the approval of the minutes for the September 9th, 2020 meeting. Item 1B, approval of accounts payable September 23rd, 2020. Item 1C, approval of certain reoccurring monthly bills September 23rd, 2020. Item 1D, approval of resolution 2020-27, authorizing the submittal to the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority Municipal Grant Program for the proposed Lower Southampton Township Police Department, Lower Southampton Township road improvements, I'm sorry. Item 1C, approval of resolution 2020-28, authorizing the submittal to the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority Municipal Grant Program for the proposed Lower Southampton Township Police Department's purchase of police vehicles and Trimble Total Station. Item 1F, approval of resolution 2020-29, authorizing the submittal to the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority Municipal Grant Program for the proposed Lower Southampton Township Fire Marshal Office's purchase of a mini pumper vehicle. Item 1G, approval of resolution 2020-30, authorizing the submittal to Bucks County Redevelopment Authority Municipal Grant Program for the proposed Lower Southampton Township Public Works purchase of a Ford F-350 XL pickup truck. Item 1H, approval of resolution 2020-31, intergovernmental agreement to participate in the grant application for Towns Against Graffiti. We would participate in that grant application with 3 other townships. And item 1I, approval of the request for an indefinite general continuance of a request to transfer restaurant liquor license number R-19363 into Lower Southampton Township for Don Locksmith Services LLC. Is there anyone that would make a motion to approve that consent agenda, or is there any discussion that needs to be held on that consent agenda?
I do have a correction. That liquor license is R 19363. Not 19. It says 19333, but it's actually 19363.
And
Right?
that is an item 1I.
Yes.
Okay. I'll read that one again. Item 1I of the consent agenda then would be the approval of the request for indefinite general continuance of request to transfer restaurant liquor license number R-19363 into Lower Southampton Township for Don Locksmith Services LLC.
I have a question also for DE, DEFD. Are we going to keep that in that order after all this discussion about the pump truck, or would we want to consider moving G up before the pumper truck? Because what's that in, did we put it in basically wish list order?
We did at the last meeting. I don't know if the board wants to reconsider shuffling it again. Is that what you were asking, Sue?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your proposal?
About putting the number G up above the pumper truck.
So the the Ford 350 XL pickup truck?
Mhm. If not,
No, the police vehicles. The police vehicles up in front of the
They are.
pumper.
Yeah, the police
They are.
vehicles are in front of the pumper.
All right.
The police vehicles are item 1E. The pumper is item 1F. And the Ford F-350 XL pickup truck is item 1G. And I think that
Should we
how
switch?
we did paving, the police department, the mini pumper, and the XL 350, and then the Towns Against Graffiti grant last.
so my question is, should we switch those two?
Or do we still want to even keep the mini pumper in there at this point?
And that's the discussion I think we had before the meeting. If the board wants to speak about the mini pumper, if we have to vote on that separately, maybe we sever that as we did with an item at the last meeting in the consent agenda, and approve the consent agenda or put the consent agenda on hold until we decide both the order and should the mini pumper be in it.
I think all we really need to do is switch F and G.
What?
Switch F and G.
Is that you that said it?
Yes, F and G. That's what I suggested. Well, I didn't suggest it, but I am right now.
And the reason I'm saying that is we're having some resistance for that. So if we had a wish list of things that we were going to be getting, and we would be hopefully guaranteed, since for G we had no one that came forward through the town at the township letting us know that was not something recommended where it was with the pumper truck. So if we had a listing of things on our wish list that G, we would hope that G would get approved for the pumper truck.
But
Yeah,
it's recommended by our emergency management. It's not recommended, and we discussed the pros and cons of it. But our emergency management is recommending it.
When you say our emergency management, I guess you're speaking just of the fire marshal, not
The
of
fire-
the police.
Right, the fire marshal. Speaking of pros and cons of it.
Right. Doesn't it concern you though at all that the two fire chiefs don't recommend it?
Well, that's
Obviously, I am taking that into consideration, absolutely. But I'm
I
taking
think-
all of it into consideration.
Sure.
And I'm taking into consideration the safety of our residents and
Sure.
speedy deliverance, and I'm taking a lot of things into consideration.
I'm still kind of concerned about why the fire departments are concerned about this. It would seem to me as though there were a benefit to the fire departments in taking over some of the daytime stuff. And I don't understand quite why they're objecting to that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
And
they,
a support vehicle,
yeah, they
not
definitely,
in place of a
definitely-
vehicle.
they're definitely objecting to it. You're right, Ed.
I don't know why
He
though.
doesn't understand it. He's saying he
Yeah,
doesn't
from
understand.
from a public safety standpoint, I mean, I would, from any fire, emergency services, I would think the goal is whoever get out a vehicle as fast as you can. And then
Yeah.
if they need help, you send the rest of the cavalry out. And if we can get this thing for free, and the one fire company was completely in favor of it in 2012, they just weren't aware of that. And now they're not in favor of it. And I think as a service, we owe the citizens a service to get the fire services out there as quick as we can. And if the RDA would cover the cost of that, I don't see how we could lose.
Well, I guess the real question is, at this point, what is more important? Mark, can you tell us the big time importance for the 350 XL? And not as opposed to anything else, but is there a big need for that piece of equipment?
Well, I think we have to stick to the agenda. I don't think the agenda, otherwise we're taking the agenda and we're jumbling it up.
Okay.
I mean, we have it listed A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. I mean, unless there's some sentiment that item F should be taken out.
I'd like to have F taken out then.
Well, why don't we sever that
Yeah.
then?
Go on the
And
advice.
we'll vote on that separately.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That would be fine.
Okay. So
What
we'll do.
did you say, Sue? Sue,
Sue would like item 1F for the mini pumper taken out and voted upon separately.
But if we vote on it separately, are we voting out of the order or I'm not? If we vote on it separately,
Let me
we don't
su-
have to vote on.
Let's
we're
let
gonna
Frank.
vote- All right, hold on.
Frank?
If we're going to vote on it separately, we're going to vote to keep it or not keep it. And then if,
Exactly.
if it goes one way or the other, if we vote not to keep it, then no worries. It's not on the, it's not in an order. But if we vote to keep it, then we have to vote on what order? Is that what we're doing?
I think that makes sense. I think you make a motion to approve the consent agenda except for the pumper truck. And then someone makes a separate motion to approve the pumper truck and insert it in whatever order you want it and vote on that motion, and it either passes or fails.
Right. So we have to vote, right,
Oh, fair enough.
twice. Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
So Sue or whoever, do you want to make the motion that you had suggested?
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with removal of number F in the consent agenda for the pumper truck, the mini pumper vehicle.
Hey, right. Even before we do that, I also have another question with the agenda.
Absolutely.
I just like to confirm with Mr. Galdo that there are no payables in tonight's payables that have anything to do with the litigation that I had voted against at our last meeting. I don't believe there is, but I just wanted to hear it from Mr. Galdo.
Tim, from what I was told and from what was told to you earlier this week, was that there was not.
Okay, I just
And
wanted
that
to hear it from
only
you.
the description pertains to the items that are denoted in your payable package.
All right, very good. I just wanted to hear it from you again, Joe. Thank you.
No problem. I don't mind stuttering.
Yep, not a problem. I'll be asking again.
So Sue, your motion is?
For the approval of consent agenda with removal of item F, the mini pumper truck, to be voted on separately.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Let's do roll call vote. Ms. Cummings?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
No.
Thank you. And Ray Weldy, I'll vote yes to vote on that separately.
Okay.
So that motion, then the consent agenda is, except for item 1F, is passed with a vote of 4-1. And now we can then make a motion, if someone wants to make a motion to either approve the purchase, or not the purchase, approve the application to the RDA of the mini pumper, or whatever your motion. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Does anyone want to make a motion about item 1F?
Well, I still have a problem with why the fire departments don't want it. It seems to me as though this would be an add-on to their capabilities, in including the fire marshal, along with additional capabilities for them to be able to get someplace in a hurry and find out what the real problem is. And I just don't understand why the fire departments are against it, both of them, which is surprising to me. Anyway, sorry.
So Ed, so now we want to vote on to add this to the RDA. Now we're going to vote on that. We made a motion to vote on it separately. So now we want to make a motion to vote on it to keep it or not keep it.
Yeah, leave it in its position, because I don't understand that. Yeah.
So Ed, your motion is to keep it in the application to the RDA and to place it in what order?
In the order that it's on the list.
Okay. Is there a second? All right.
I'll second that. Ray Weldy. Motion's been seconded, so we'll take a roll call vote on the approval of Resolution 2029 for the mini pumper vehicle as proposed by Mr. Shannon and remaining in the order of which it's listed on the agenda. Then we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Cummings?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Koutsaratis?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm out of order, but Mr. Koutsaratis, no, thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. And Ray Weldy, I vote yes. So that motion passes with a vote of 3 yeas and 2 nays to remain where it is in the order and the submission. Let's move on then to, thank you. Let's move on to item 2, approval of the 2021 MMO, which is the minimum municipal obligation for the police pension. I'll turn that over to Mr. Galdo for an explanation.
Yeah, hi. This is for the police pension. Basically, what it is calculation of the 2021 budget cycle that is based on the actuarial valuation of the plan that was completed as of January 1st, 2019, as well as the estimated payroll for 2020. It's recommended that the police pension plan be funded at $1,377,473, which is an increase of $130,000 plus from the 2020 year. So basically, this amount is higher, is basically higher than in the past due to the actuarial updated mortality table, as well as a poor fourth quarter in the 2018 year. The Department of the Auditor General, of course, will audit this for compliance under Act 205. That's all I have to say on this. So it would be an increase on our pension costs of an additional $130,000 for the 2021 year. And again, this is for the police pension plan.
Is that in line, Joe? Is that something we've expected?
That's kind of what we projected where it came at in talking with the actuarial. We kind of knew that it would be around this ballpark number. And that's kind of what I've been saying, basically, that we had this pending increase coming on board. We're hopeful that, if the market, stays or doesn't get too crazy or hectic, that within a couple of years, 2024, we may see a decrease in the pension funding. But that's a hypothetical. So right now, for next year, we have an additional burden of $130,000 that's being added to basically the pension plan.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. That's all I have on that, Ray.
Thank you, Joe. So is there a motion to approve the 2020 minimum municipal obligation for the police department's pension fund?
I'll make that motion. This is Susan.
Thank you, Ms. Cummings. Motion made by Ms. Cummings. Is there a second?
Deb
Awesome.
Kaplan, I'll make a second.
Sorry.
Seconded by Ms. Kaplan. Thank you. And we'll do roll call vote. Ms. Cummings?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. And before I vote, everyone knows I was a member of the police department for 30 years, and I'm also pensioned out. I consulted with our solicitor, Mr. Dillon, before making a commitment to vote or not vote on this or to recuse myself. And Mr. Dillon is advised, I believe he can affirm, that this doesn't constitute a conflict on my part. Correct?
That is correct. That is the opinion I've given, and I've given it in the past. You're voting on a group contribution, and it's something that's required. It's the minimum required necessary contribution. So yes, you can vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. And so Ray Weldy, I vote yes. So that motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Next up would be the manager's report.
Thank you, Board Chairman. As far as, again, the budget workshops would continue from October 14th through the end of November. The next budget cycle would be street lighting, the hydrant fund. I will have a discussion with fire protection also, debt service, as well as general obligation. As far as the payables that you approved tonight, just an FYI, there was the release of the 2020 tax allocation for Tri-Hampton Rescue Squad. Per their budget allocation, the entity submitted all the necessary documents and is compliant. As far as hazardous waste collection, again, this is run at the county level. PADEP has required residents to register for events, and they would have to go to https://buckshhw.eventbrite.com. And additionally, more information as far as the dates are available at the www.buckscounty.org/recycle. The most upcoming date is October 17th, and that's at Upper Bucks campus of Bucks County College in Percy. So that's where the next hazardous waste collection event is hypothetically going to be at. As far as Playwicki Farm, we're getting reports of a lot of dog issues where people are not taking care or picking up after their dogs. If you are visiting Playwicki Farm, we try to keep it as best as we can and keep it clean for the residents, the children, and for all the people that are, walking around. If you see someone not picking up after their dog, please try to self-police and ask the person politely to please pick it up. We're finding a lot of issues where it's everywhere, and people are just not, not using the mutt mitts that Matt has set aside over there at the site. Lastly, there's an additional item that Matt wanted to bring up, and that is dealing at Playwicki Farm and with the contract with regard with Love Grows. I believe their contract ends in the middle of next May, so they're looking for some feeling from the board before they invest further into touching the ground and doing more things there. So Matt, do you want to talk on that issue real quick?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Good evening, Mr. Chair and the rest of the board. In conversation with the folks who have the lease agreement down at Playwicki Farm, they're doing really well. For the residents who've been taking advantage of the farm stand on Sundays from 10 to 1, they've really been enjoying the food that's been coming out of the ground. Based on the timeline of when the actual lease agreement was in place, it would be May, which doesn't necessarily coincide with the growing season. They just wanted to get a feeling from the board as before they finish this growing season and begin their off season in preparation for the next, where we stand and if the board was interested in renewing the lease or possibly even renewing the lease on a longer term. Right now it's a 2-year term. But being that it was initiated at May 2019, nothing actually happened through that summer growing period. Nothing actually went into the ground until that, it was basically coincided with the beginning of COVID. They're having a great year this year. They just want to, they want to invest back into that leased area. They have great ideas with working with different grants. They have some different planning techniques now, knowing the lay of the land and how things go. So if I just wanted to, I mentioned to Joe that I just wanted to kind of begin conversation now. So when the end of the growing season's in place, they'll kind of know what direction they're going.
Matt, could they come out? Could they be on the next, maybe not the next one, but an upcoming board meeting to present
Absolutely.
the plans to us? And, I still have some concerns with the look of the trailers that are there.
That's one of the things that's definitely going to be addressed moving forward. They want to invest into some green roof structure that would completely cover the visibility of the building, or I should say the shipping containers. It would have a much more sightly green appearance and be eco-friendly, we'll say.
Hey, Matt, would they also be interested, if memory serves me correct, I think they were donating $1,000 a year to the Play Wiki Commission.
Correct. That's the lease agreement currently. Yes.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, they've had a pretty excellent year financially. I mean, I would like to see maybe they might be willing to up that a little more for the Play Wiki committee. I don't know if that might be something that they would consider, or the board would consider.
I've discussed production with them, although I haven't discussed revenues over expenses. While the ground is producing, there's a related cost that goes into that level of production. So I can't speak for them, but absolutely I'll invite them and ask them to disclose what they're able to as far as kind of a revenue over expenses. But I'll tell you this, the $1,000 that does go to Play Wiki, especially during these times, is extremely beneficial to the Farm Foundation. They weren't able to do their Second Friday events. We didn't have the Fun Day this year. So those community events, while each one is a small fundraiser, at the end of the year add up to a pretty good deal of money. So the $1,000 contribution in the lease agreement that Love Grows does make is significant to the Farm Foundation.
Sure.
We can absolutely explore.
Just something. Maybe a little extra. I mean, it's hard. What is that? An acre of property that we lease them?
It's 4.6 is the whole area total. They have about 3 of it with actual crops.
So
planted.
$1,000 a year. That's pretty much a steal in my books.
When the terms were agreed upon, there was a lot of unknown with what was going to come of it.
Absolutely.
So it's something that I think they would be they'd be willing to renegotiate and discuss. But again, they definitely want the feeling of the board before this growing season's over, so they can kind of take direction into the next season. So yes,
I've heard much more positive than negative about it. So I mean, I'd be. I like the idea of it.
Great idea.
I know at first it was a change, and visually people saw shipping containers, they saw chickens, but I think now they're seeing the actual produce coming out of the ground, and the availability on Sundays from 10 to 1 to purchase it. I'm getting nothing but positive comments recently.
Sure.
Yeah, I would just like to hear more from them about where they're selling, if they're donating any of the food for farm to family, or, what is it that, a little bit more detail for the following year.
Sure.
Matt, maybe you could talk to them and coordinate with Joe for either October 7th or October 21st, and we could hear from them for a few minutes before one of the budget workshops.
I have different dates for the October meetings.
14th
I was
and the
understanding
28th.
it
I'm
was
sorry, the 14th and the 28th. My fault.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
I'll talk to Joe, and we'll see where they fit best on the agenda for the upcoming meetings, and we can have that conversation.
Great.
And I know the flowers that they said they were going to plant, they did plant them, and it does help. Those flowers are getting really tall. I mean, it does help. It's
they got a little stunted by the hurricane, but they're there.
Right. And now that we're really talking about Play Wiki Farm, I just have a question. I know and things have been in a not the usual situation with COVID and everything, but how is the farm doing with any kind of repair? Does anything need to be done at the farmhouse?
The farm foundation has, we'll call it a wish list of improvements that they're looking at moving forward. Nothing is of an immediate safety concern or not meeting a standard of a public park. It's more of a wish list that they're looking at in some maintenance and upkeep.
I remember a few years ago, there was a problem with a window in the kitchen that was causing some problems. Has that been resolved?
Yep, we got to the root of that. It was a pitch of a gutter combined with inadequate flashing around that window. That's been mitigated.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm the Mr. Negative here on this.
I knew this
I
was
didn't say
coming.
that, Ed.
I am certainly not in favor of the farm being at Playwiki. Maybe the $1,000 is very beneficial for Playwiki, and I do like Playwiki, and I like the people that run it. I am so much opposed to this and the appearance of it, and the chickens running around, and the fences that they don't have that they should have, and now they're getting new equipment. I just don't like it. And if somebody else comes and says, "Oh, they got a farm. How about me putting one over here?" Well, now you're in a pickle, because how are you going to say no? You've already got one. And I just am not in favor of this, and I haven't been since the beginning. And
I
if somebody else,
remember the Playwiki Farm Committee was supportive of it when this came in front of the supervisors. If I remember
They were.
correctly.
Absolutely.
Playwiki Farm they are in favor of it, and I respect the people that run it and so on, and I kind of understand why they want to do this, but I still am totally opposed to it, and I'd rather do something else for $1,000 than have the farm there.
I kind of lean toward what Ed's saying, so that's why I would like them there. Maybe I need to go out and have a tour of it myself, but
And I guess the other thing, Sue, is that how do they clean that
Yeah.
edible stuff? I mean, does it have to be cleansed or some way picked and put on a truck and cleansed in some fashion? I just don't like it.
I could give you a quick answer on that one, Ed, and they'll definitely be able to give you the specifics as far as food safety and standards. But they do have water service to the site, and I know that one of those shipping containers also has refrigeration in it. So once the product's harvested, it's cleaned, it's prepared, and then refrigerated, just as you would purchase it in a supermarket. So I'm certain that they're compliant, although I don't know the step by step. That's definitely something we could touch on when invited to the meeting. Also, going back to what Sue was saying, I would be more than happy to arrange a site tour for all of the supervisors, anyone who would like to attend. We could do a walkthrough. We can discuss the operation. We can discuss the crops, the seasons that they grow in, and more or less the future of what they're projecting could be happening at Playwiki Farm, if anyone has any reservations.
And I remember distinctly, and I know it wasn't possible when this came in front of the board. It was talked about the large trailer type container was not supposed to be visible, if I remember. And then it wasn't possible to put it
right.
where you thought it would be put in, and that was a big thing with the supervisors back when this was all in front of us.
And I'll understand and agree the concerns that existed at that time and still exist now. When it was proposed to be out of the line of sight, unfortunately the hill just gets too steep for the type of containers. Once they got on the ground, it would be an issue where once they settled, the doors wouldn't swing properly. They would be off level inside of the containers. So the decision was made, while it's still within the leased area and still approved to be there, they were slightly moved closer to the roadway in a much flatter area and more accessible.
I know.
I remember when that was explained.
And the aesthetics are awful.
Hey, Matt. could we also, maybe the same night they come, we have a representative from the Plewicki Foundation come and speak about it too? I think that would be a good idea.
Would be a good-
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Rose McMenamin is gonna beat me up, I can tell you that.
I'll make sure to reach out to them tomorrow, let them know that we've had this conversation and sort of to prepare them for a site visit followed by joining one of the team meetings.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
So,
Also, one last thing. I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to the Travis Manion Heroes Run, both the volunteers, the participants, the fire departments, the Tri-Hampton Rescue Squad, all of the donors, everybody who was able to contribute in one way or another. The race was not only conducted safely, but for a great cause. So just wanted to thank everyone who participated in that one. Great job to everybody.
Thank you.
Agreed.
okay, the board, I have one thing. I'd like someone to make a motion to authorize the publishing of the advertising for ordinances for adoption of the 2015 International Fire Code and 2015 International Property Maintenance Code. We'd like to get it advertised so you can consider it at a meeting in October. And Mike Italia's updated the ordinances and wants to get this moving. So I'd appreciate if someone could make that motion.
And these were the two motions you made, that you sent on the two motions. These are the two ordinances you sent us this afternoon, right, Frank?
Bryce McGuigan and Mike Italia worked on it, so I didn't even know they sent it to you, but I know they sent it to me and I said I'd bring this up.
Okay.
Can we get a thumbnail sketch of it, or, because I didn't get anything that I remember.
We already have these ordinances, Ed, but we have either 2009 or we have an older versions and they need to be updated.
Okay,
Yeah, one's to adopt the 2015 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code, and the other is to adopt the 2015 edition of the International Fire Code. So
No,
just
it's,
so we're-
right, it's advertised
or advertise it, right?
for consideration.
Right. I'll make that motion to advertise the two ordinances proposed by Mr. Dillon for advertisement.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Ray Weldy, seconded by Mr. Shannon. We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Cummings?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes,
Thank you. And Ray Weldy, I vote yes. So that motion to advertise those two ordinances is passed with a vote of 5-0. Joe, anything else?
That's all I have for tonight, Board Chair.
Thank you. Supervisors' comments, Ms. Cummings?
Okay. Sorry, I am kind of weaving around here. I'm running out of charge here. I also wanted to commend Matt for the great day for the Travis Manion Heroes Run. I had a chance to go out and volunteer. It was a great day by everybody, all the volunteers. It was a wonderful day. It was a great weather day, and I'm glad I was able to participate. Ray did a great job.
Thank you for volunteering. So,
did a great job running, Ray.
yeah, I didn't fall over.
I'd like to thank our library board for coming out and giving us the presentation on the budget this evening, and also going back and working through some tough times of the numbers. And also for our two chiefs to come that came out this evening earlier before the board meeting, and had a discussion about their needs and in the township. And Joe, I want to thank you for working on the budget. The budget's a tough one, especially this year. I know there's only so much to go around, and you're doing a great job working the budget for this year. So I want to thank you for that. Looking forward to Mr. Kusaratis back to blue this coming October. Everybody come out and enjoy. And Kim, you'll probably talk more about that. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Sue. And with that, we'll go to Kim, since you just brought that up, Kim.
Yeah. So once again, everybody, at our last meeting, the board granted the motion to have a rally, motorcycle run / rally ending up at Russell Elliott Park. The event is going to start once again on October 17th, which is Saturday. Kickstands up promptly at the Bensalem Police Department. I was just speaking to the lieutenant a few days back, and we're all good to go. It's going to be a terrific event. Hopefully we'll have great weather. But kickstands up at 1 o'clock, and then we will be traveling through the Bensalem, Middletown area back down in the lower Southampton, where we have some really cool things set up. From the guest speakers, DJ, the fire companies are going to be part of it. It's going to be a great thing to celebrate the appreciation we have for all the men and women that support us daily. And the rain date on that, hopefully we won't need it, but the rain date will be Sunday, October 18th. And that's about it.
Should be a great day. Thank you, Kim. Mr. Shannon?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just want to say to Joe Galdo, thank you, Joe. He's like a magic man with the numbers. I don't know where he's coming up with all his money, but God bless him. He's doing a hell of a job with manufacturing. Maybe he's got a tree out in the backyard or something. But anyway, the library, I'm glad they're finally doing a budget. I understand what they're talking about, but there's certain things that we're one team here, and we all got to be working together. And the library is paying people full time, and that shouldn't happen when everybody else is having layoffs and so on. One of those is Mark. I think Mark is doing a fantastic job. Some of the stuff with the blacktop on the roads and stuff like that, he's really doing a great job. In addition to the pumps and so on. Mike Mike seems to be doing a great job too with the zoning and so on, making changes, etc. I don't understand why the fire departments are opposed to the pumper truck. It would seem to me as though, and I said this earlier, that they should look at this, I think, as an add-on to the safety of the public. I already went through my comments about the farm people, and the Travis run. I couldn't make it, but I hear all good stuff, and it should have been a great day. I'm sorry I missed it, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes, I also want to say thank you to everybody involved in the Travis run. I volunteered as well and had a great time.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you.
And being the cheerleader on the side, I'm a cheerleader at heart. And I saw you running, Ray. Did a great job.
It wasn't an optical illusion.
I was cheering you on. And I want to thank all the sponsors, of course, and all the employees that were involved with that. And again, all the volunteers, and of course, all the participants, the walkers and the runners. It was a great day. And I was so happy that you were able, and of course, the Veterans Advisory Council did a great job doing that, putting everything together. It's not easy to coordinate everything, and especially during COVID, making sure all the CDC guidelines were adhered to. So it was a wonderful day. So thank you to everybody on that. And also, I would like to thank the library for coming out and with their budget. And it's not easy, of course, this CDC during the pandemic, and Joe Galdo, of course, with the budget and the sewer. It's very challenging times, as we all know. And also, the library does have story time on Fridays at 10 to 10:30 for pre-K. So it's not live, so you can enjoy that at any time. And that's on our Feasterville Library Facebook page. And you can always go to the library's website for all the virtual activities. And I also would like to say, for people that have comments or concerns, of course, you can call the Township building, but we do have a user-friendly form on the website, or lowersouthamptontownship.org website. You go into the menu, click on contact us, and it comes right up. It's very easy to use. We'd like to know we'd like to know everything that is concerning our residents, and please feel free to do that. We would like to hear from you. And let's see what else. I think that's it.
Hey,
Thank you, Deb. I'd like to thank Chief Dave Walters and Chief Steve Brooks from the fire companies, along with our acting fire marshal Ryan Smith and the board, for having a frank discussion tonight about what everyone believes is the best need for the township. Everyone's passionate and wants the best for the residents. We had a great discussion. I hope we came to a decent resolution and agree to have more talks in the future to work together as a team. So I thank those two guys for coming out and taking the time tonight to work with us. The 9/11 Heroes Run's been brought up a lot, and without the work of the Veterans Advisory Council, which is chaired by John Grin, and the dedicated members of the VAC, along with the volunteers, the terrific donations that we received. Matt Gilbert spearheaded this like he does every year, and we couldn't do it without him. The Lower Southampton Police Department for traffic control, Public Works for helping with barricades, and of course the volunteers. And of course, if there was no runners, there wouldn't be any race. So everyone persevered to pull this thing off safely, and it appears that we did that. So thank you. I don't really focus on township employees too much, and not to embarrass anybody or single out anyone, but it's been one heck of a week for Kevin Kirk. Kevin Kirk works in our code enforcement division, and the supervisors and the board at least have been made aware of 3 separate incidents where residents have commended Kevin for his hard work. All 3 incidents involved neighbor disputes, nuisance disputes with overgrown weeds and shrubs, neighbors making noise, riding dirt bikes and things like that. And all 3 residents commended Kevin for his willingness, his tediousness, his tenacity, and his ability to mediate and come up with a peaceful resolution in all 3 incidents. So thank you, Kevin, for your hard work, and it's great to have him on our team. And last but not least is at the last meeting, I believe it was 6 or 7 hometown heroes were recognized. Those banners came in a few days ago, and they were turned over, and hopefully that they can be hung for the next month or 5 weeks before the end of the season. So thanks to everyone that donated to that program. That's all I have. If there's no further business, we would need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Made by Mr. Shannon, second.
I'll second.
Oh,
Sorry, Deb.
go ahead, Sue.
I'll second that. This is Sue.
Seconded by Ms. Cummings. Thank you, Sue. Roll call vote, Ms. Cummings.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kutsaratus.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon.
Yes.
Ray Weldy, yes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work and dedication. We'll see you next meeting. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.